We're ready to put in the subfloor on our model. And let's just take a look at what that means. Well, when the carpenters are building the new house, they put in the floor joist first. And then on top of that floor joist, they put a subfloor, which is generally a plywood subfloor or a particle board subfloor, but it's not the finished floor, it's the subfloor. And then on top of that subfloor, we put carpeting, wood floor. We put this in the kitchen already, or tile. The tile sits on top of a mud base. So when we put the oak in, we said that it's 3/4 of an inch above the finished floor. When we put the carpeting in, I think we say that maybe a 1/2 inch or something like that is the thickness of the carpeting. So it would be a 1/2 inch or something like that above the finished floor. When we put the tile in, it sits on a cement base. So it might be the thickness of the tile and the thickness of that mud base. I think in our library, our tile is 1.25 inches. So you would say when you go to put in your tile that it's 1.25 inches thick. We'll take a look at that in a moment to make sure that that's correct, but might be 1.5 inches, 1.25 inches, maybe an inch to the top. We want to tell Revit where the top of that material is. The top of the oak, because it's 3/4 of an inch thick, the top of that would be 3/4 of an inch above the subfloor. So let's take a look at the floor plan. And we want to put in a subfloor. And the subfloor, the carpenters put that subfloor right up against the face of this plywood in the wall. So we're going over to the architecture tab, and we'll go to the floor icon. And then we have all of in the properties, we have all of these in your library. You have all of these materials: carpeting, concrete, oak. We want to put in our subfloor, which is a 3/4 inch plywood. We draw that similar to the way we draw an extrusion, except that Revit has already created the thickness. We don't need to do that, but we do need to say what the height of the subfloor is relative to our first floor, and the height of that is 0. So now we're going to simply draw the boundary line. We can trace the edges, or we can get lazy here. Let's try putting in a rectangle. So we're looking to pick the corner of here. I didn't do it. If for some reason it's not snapping, I'm hitting the tab key, it's not snapping to that. So I'll say, okay, fine. Then I'll put it right here, and I will come over and put it right here. Our house is a rectangle, so it's pretty simple to draw, very simple house. And that is not, doesn't appear to be snapping to there either. So I'll put it right here. And then I'll use the align tool to tab, tab, tab. Let's go up a little bit higher, tab, and then align it. The reason I was having an issue here, because I was hovering over this point and Revit wasn't clear. Did I want to grab the end of this wall or this line? And it wasn't sure. It wasn't giving me that as an option, but I went up to here and I was able to select that because it's clear that it's the line in the wall. So I generally don't try to select things at the end of walls. So let's see if we can do that over here. Tab. Revit doesn't know. It's saying, well, it could be this, could be this, could be this. And so I tab until it highlights what I want to select. And then I align to it. Now see, I could lock this to this wall so that when I move the wall, the floor moves with it. I have never found that to be of a great advantage, so I don't lock it. Right, tab, highlight it there. And that's why I wasn't too concerned about particularly being accurate, because I knew I could go back and align it to where I wanted it to be. Now, if I hit the OK or the green check mark right now, Revit will put a floor in here entirely of that material, plywood, at that level. But I have stairs where I don't want the floor to be. So I'm going to draw that perimeter and come from here, the edge of the stairs, over to here and down. I'll go all the way to the, I'm questioning, I'll just go to the face of the gypsum board and then I'll go back to here. Now, remember that your extrusions or your floors have to be a closed entity. So I'm going to select one of those magenta lines and come down to the eyeglass and say, isolate category. So all we're going to see now is the magenta line. And you can see that this is not a closed entity because it has this piece here too. So what I'm going to do is break. I'll take this, which is a split, and I'll just split that, try to split that line. It wasn't letting me, I wonder why. All right, it's not letting me do that. So we'll try to break it. There we go. It will let me do that. Okay, so now this should be two different lines. It's got a connection point there, but now I can use my trim extend and make the outline of the floor exactly where I wanted it to be. I don't want it to go through the stairs. I want to be able to go down to the basement. So I don't want stairs there. If I say okay, and I don't get an error message and the magenta lines disappear because I told Revit, I only want to see those magenta lines. Well, now those magenta lines are no longer in existence, so they don't show. So I'll reset my temporary hide. And now I've put my floor in and it doesn't go through the stairs. So let's take a look. Let's grab this, make it bigger. And now you can start to see that there is a floor in there. We already had the floor on top of the subfloor, which is the oak. Now we have the floor in there. Look at that. Notice where there isn't a floor. I said, don't put a floor where the stairs are. So I can go down. I don't have my downstairs in yet, but I could do that. Okay. Looks like the door casing needs to stop at the floor. So I'm going to click on that floor, edit the boundary. I'll go back to the first floor. I still have my magenta lines there. I'm going to take that magenta line and modify it so that I have, oh, that's crooked. Okay, well, look at that. Let's line it up first so that it's aligned. And then I will draw that line across here and to here and down to here. And then let's isolate that category again. So you can see what we have. Got a problem there, so clean that up. So that's actually the shape of the floor. Reset temporary hide, which takes me back to what I have, and I hit the green check mark to say okay. And let's look at what I did in 3D. You can see that I extended that floor a little bit farther. The door will be able to rest on the floor. The casing will rest on the floor. But I think the first step down to the basement will be right here, not at the same level as this. So that looks okay. We put in our subfloor. Now, let's go back to the first floor. And how do we get into the house? Well, we need a door. So we're back to the architecture tab, over to door. And in the properties box, we have all of these doors, but there wasn't a particular door that I liked. So I added a door from RevitCity. I went over to RevitCity. And I signed in. You need to be signed in order to download all of the families. If you're thinking in AutoCAD, it would be a block, but all of the families of that other people have created and then shared on this platform are available for you to look at if you do not join, or you can download those families if you have joined. So it doesn't cost anything. You simply need to register and then you can log in, which you can see that I have, and then find something that you like. So here's one. Let's say this is what I like. Then we simply click on download. And then once it's downloaded, we open the file and we get this message that says that Revit was made in a, wow, 2015, a long time ago, in that version of Revit. But we're working now on 2025. So the model needs to be upgraded in order to work in our project. So we simply say, okay, upgrade the model. And Revit takes a few minutes or a few moments in the background to upgrade that model from the 2015 version that it was created in to the 2025 version, and we can look at it. So now I have this open. I want to put it into my model. So we simply come over here to this icon that says load into project. And I can place it in the wall that way, or I can place it in the wall this way, which is what I'll do. I'll place it in the wall there. And now that family, that particular door, works in this program and exists inside of my door library. Door, and there it is. It's in my library of doors, and I could use it again and again and again. But it wasn't in your library, which was from my template to begin with. Now, we would definitely want this door to be centered. So let's double check. Revit, it's pretty smart. It might make it centered. It looks like it did, but we'll click the equal button just to make sure. And sure enough, Revit has centered that door between this wall and this wall, which is kind of where you would want it to be. I want to delete that dimension, delete, but it's Revit saying, hey, wait a second, that's a constraint. You constrained that door so that it has to be equal between this wall and this wall. And now when you delete that dimension, you're deleting the constraint, which is okay. You can simply say okay to that, and it deleted it. So the two things we did right now was to put the floor in, the subfloor. If we look at a section, let's do that. I want to flip that section because I want it to look towards the back of the house. And let's just go there and see what we did. And this is exactly what we did. We put this floor, you can see that floor, we put it flush up against the face of this plywood because that's where we want the subfloor to go to. It would do the same over here on this side. And then it's in the correct location as far as the elevation goes. Let's go back to the first floor and look at the section that goes through the oak. So now if we take a look in the kitchen, let's change that to consistent colors. That might make it a little easier to see. There's my oak floor, which sits on top of my subfloor. So when we look at the properties of this floor, it's 3/4 of an inch above the first floor. This is exactly at the first floor, 0 inches above the first floor. And if we look at our levels, there's our first floor. We're calling that the first floor. That's the top of the subfloor, which is the plywood. And that should line up right there. Let's have a look and see. There's my, if you hover over the levels, you can see what it is. That's the first floor. We told the top of the subfloor to be 0 inches above that level, and look, that's exactly where we put it. So things are looking good. I always want to save it. And now the two things that we did in this demonstration was we put our subfloor in and we put our front door in. Let's take a look at that front door from the outside. Now, sometimes when people make their Revit families, they don't make it exactly according to the Revit rules. And it looks like we have a situation where the door didn't quite work for some reason, and I'm not sure what it is. Let's hit the space bar and see if that makes a difference. Yeah, I had it in backwards. Okay. All right. So now that's what it looks like. It's not the most beautiful door, but it is a nice door for this class, and it looks pretty good. Let's look at it from this side. Let's see, it still didn't cut. It didn't cut the inside wall for some reason. So what I'm going to do is I think I have another entry door that I've loaded, and there's something wrong with this one. So I look at that. It's doing the same thing here too. So we have some issue with this family not cutting out the door properly, I think. Yeah, there's definitely an issue there. So let's see what other entry doors we have. I click on the door, and let's see what other double entry. No, those are both the same. So I'm going to just put in some sort of a door there that's different. And see, that door cuts, so that's fine, but we don't want a garage door at our front door. So let's see, we'll probably go back and get a double door sliding, 72-inch wide. All right, so we know that there's a problem there, but the problem doesn't appear to be with our wall. It appears to be with the door that we downloaded, and that happens sometimes when people make their families. They don't make it exactly correct, and so it doesn't work. So now we'll have to go back to RevitCity and get a different door. But while I'm looking at it, at my model, look at this. These cabinets don't line up, so let's fix that real quickly. Align, I'm saying align to this plane, and oops, maybe I want to do the other way around. Let's align to this plane and then this one. I think those two line up. Yeah, so we'll do the same thing. Align to this plane and then align those cabinets to there. So that all those cabinets line up now. We'll save it. And that will be the end. This is a failure. This didn't work correctly. I guess we can go back and let's do it again here. Let's search for an entry door. ENTRY is my search word. And we'll see what kind of entries RevitCity provides us, because we really should get something. Now look at its processing here. It takes, RevitCity is not the fastest, but it still works. So craftsman entry, well, we had that. Let's try this one, decorative entry door, download, open it up. Now this one was made in 2013, so we need to upgrade the model. And then it will open it up so that I can load it into my project. So now load it into the project. I want to put it in our class projects. It's asking me where. There's a couple places that Revit thinks that it's possible it could be put, but I do want to put it in the project. So I'll say, okay. And now we have that in our project. Let's click on this door. We're selected it, but we're going to say change that door to this. Nope, not that one. I'm looking for that entry door, decorative entry door, 36 by 84. Let's see what happens there. I like it. See, now it works, I think. Yeah, let's take a look at it from the outside. Yeah, now see this particular family, it's not made by Revit. It's made by you and me, people like me, and something worked, but something didn't on those other ones, but this one works. So we'll do it that way. So for whatever reason, the other door didn't completely cut the wall on the inside and the outside properly. So we picked a different one. It's a different door, but that looks good too. So we're going to save our work. Always do that. And then stop.